All right, everybody. Thank you so much for having the patience to stay on with us here for now our fourth session as part of the state of cyber. So, this is a great opportunity for us to now see what's coming. And I'm really excited about this. You heard from the sell side analyst community on kind of the big publics and the titans and the world of kind of the M&A and IPOs. And then you heard from the CISOs. Now you heard from AI. And we have three of the most experienced and successful venture capitalists in the world of cyber, but probably in the world, period. So really want to say welcome. So, when you have a name, it's just like YL. You can just say YL. It's kind of like Usher, like yesterday in the Super Bowl or the other day in the Super Bowl. We just call him YL. But Yoav, thank you so much for joining. Are you joining us from Tel Aviv or whereabouts?
No, I'm in Mill Valley. Your words are a bit crazy, flattering, and probably inappropriate. But it's really nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
No, welcome. It's so great to see you, my friend, and what great success you've had. Congratulations and everything. So Mill Valley is a lot better. Hopefully, it's dry up there as well. Thank you for joining, Alberto Yépez. Thank you so much, my friend, for joining. The co-founder and managing director of Forgepoint Capital, one of the founders of really cyber early stage investing as well, and fellow board member of mine for a couple of years. So, Alberto, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be back. Looking forward to the dialogue.
Yeah, thank you. And Mark Hatfield, awesome, founder and general partner of TenEleven Ventures, has joined us as well. Mark, appreciate you coming on as well.
Honored.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen, all three of you. Great. I'm going to open it up a little bit because I want to read a stat or two that I had at the beginning. It was really interesting to look at the investment world in 2023, and I love your comments in a second. 170.6 billion was invested in the startups in 2023, a 30% decrease from the 242 billion recorded in 2022. Now, put that in context, that's the second biggest year ever. So, but it was a 30% decrease, and particularly a decrease in later stage, because when you look at what really happened in seed stage funding, it was up 42% in 2023, which really tells you a lot about the stage we might be in, as it relates to investments and things. So let me start out, maybe Yoav, for you for a second, and tell me a little bit of your perspective in 2023. You've had some amazing success, and give me a little encapsulation of what you saw in 2023 for a minute from an investment point of view.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, there's the view for the sort of the whole industry in general, say VC worldwide in cybersecurity, and then there's also the sort of the Israel situation, which we're obviously very involved in. We now invest in Israel and the U.S. in terms of new seed deals. Traditionally, we've been doing only Israel. Recently, in 2023, we've started looking at U.S. deals as well. I'll say, Israel is still obviously our main market, and just like you said, there was a big drop off in growth rounds in cybersecurity VC in Israel, but the seed continued to be strong, which is where we always come in with our first check. There's actually been an increase in the average seed round. It kind of ticked up from about 9 million to about 10 million last year. I would say in general, there's a big sort of flight to quality. So if you look at our pipeline for last year and continuing through now, the deals that we're more serious about, and I think that's also true for other investors, is mostly the serial entrepreneurs, the more experienced founders. So not just great technologists, but also lots of business experience, savvy in venturing. And those are pretty much the deals that we see getting done now. I've got a couple of examples from our portfolio. Happy to share that later in terms of what we've done. But that's what we're seeing is mostly this sort of flight to quality and experience.
Was the number of deals you did, higher in 2023 than 2022? Just number of deals? Like how did you look at that? Was it the amount that went up from 9 to 10?
No, it's lower in terms of deal count, but it's higher probably in terms of dollars deployed. So our big seed round from last year is Gutsy, which is the old Twistlock team that came back and is basically applying process mining to the whole cybersecurity process for CISO. And that was a very large seed. That was $51 million seed together with which we did together with Mayfield Fund. So that was our biggest seed ever, which was done last year. And then we've done a kind of a smaller, more normal seed, $10 million, which is actually exactly the average in a company called AIM Security, which is security for Gen AI. So we've done 2 deals last year, but one of them was kind of an outsize in terms of size.
Like that gutsy company, I know them pretty well, so that's a pretty cool company. Alberto, over to you. Give us a little summation of 2023 from your perspective. You've seen a couple decades of this, so curious how you looked at 2023.
It's been an exciting year, but also a tough year because, as you know, there was a lot of money that got deployed in 21, 22. So 23 was a normalizing effect, right? Valuations just compressed, went back to almost to reality. Many of the companies that raised capital at peak valuations had to face reality, right? There was a lot of having to right-size the teams in order to extend the runways. But that said, the flight to quality continues to be the general theme, right? We did about 18 transactions. Since you asked that question, I want both in new and supporting our portfolio companies is about probably 2/3 of what we did last year. They put around $613 million in those combined entities to be able to do that with our co-investors. But again, it was a tough year. I see that when I hear Yoav talking about the seed funds and $50 million seeds, there used to be a mezzanine round day when we were running companies. But anyway, that said, this is probably the best time to start a company, because during the time in compression and confusion, I think this is the time where you can be nimble, focused, and really try to address the core issues. And a general theme of serial entrepreneurs, they seen the light and see how to do it differently this time. It becomes a really interesting opportunity. But we can comment about M&A. It was very little M&A that happened, but great teams. You used to say, for example, we're investors in Hermetic, another Israeli company, but got acquired by TenEleven. But there were some challenges in terms of the evaluations that they had to raise, and then when they saw the opportunity to be part of a broader ecosystem, they became part of TenEleven. But it was a great acquisition that they did. But anyway, it's been an interesting year. But best time to start a company right now, and I think the problem is only getting bigger.
I agree with you. It's really great to hear the sell-side analysts talking about the continued growth of this sector and building companies. I laugh, Alberto, because my mezzanine round at FireEye was $50 million. My mezzanine round before I went public. So guess he gets
I'm telling you.
To start out. Mark, over to you for a minute. Another veteran of all of this for a couple decades. We've worked on some deals together over the years too. What did you see 2023 from your perspective with TenEleven?
Yeah, first, thanks for having us, and it's great to see all the friendly faces. Great pull through all the topics covered, right? AI, it's a full circle, like how you're doing this. We were busy in 2023, Dave. So we did 4 seeds, 3 A's, quite a couple B's, and I think, as you know, we're kind of stage agnostic, so we can do the early deals all the way up to kind of the growth side. So kind of a big theme that's been coming out of today's event, but the bad actors haven't stopped. So the early stage companies is where the disruption and innovation comes from. I don't remember how many deals you and Ken Gonzalez have acquired over the years to add that innovation into the bigger companies you guys were running, but
50 plus. Yeah, we acquired
1.5 or 5.0?
5.0.
There you go. So long as the bad actors are out there, and Rodney spoke about AI as the bad guys using that now, innovation is going to be needed, and that's kind of where the early stage, that's all of our bread and butter here in terms of investing and working with entrepreneurs that at the end of the day are going to be the ones pushing the innovation lever for cyber. So we were busy. It's been an interesting year. I hate that word, but it's definitely busy and largely driven by another term I think was coined by you, Dave, or the dwell time, right, in the network. it's gotten lower every year, but we still have a ways to go. So headline from us is we've been active and continue to be active.
Congrats on all your success. I want to drill into some categories and things in a minute, but stay high level for me. Yoav, you mentioned something that I want to hear the others' comments on this because, the world for most of my career was United States and Israel, when it came to like companies getting built, companies growing. And when you sort of look at the landscape today, this is kind of our world. But COVID changed some things in my mind. And I just want to say something for a second because suddenly this reverse immigration started to happen. India developed almost 300 cyber companies. A lot of people didn't see that happening, right? All of a sudden, like, boom, like India is a player. And you start to look around the world. How do you all look at different geographies now? And are you mostly focused US and Israel? Are you starting to pay attention to other things and other parts of the world from a deal sourcing point of view? How do you see the global landscape, Yoav? I know you moved a little more to a two-country model, but I'm assuming you're thinking global too.
Well, I think that in order to be a good investor, you always have to specialize and you have to develop strengths in certain areas. I think everyone on the panel here, including yourself, Dave, I think our strength is cyber, and we understand cyber whether it comes from India or Israel or the US or wherever. But it's also about relationships with entrepreneurs, relationships with the ecosystem, understanding the minute challenges of geographies and markets. And, we're a small team. We're about 24 people. I don't think there's a way for us to understand the amazing Indian market or other geographies outside of Israel and the US. So we really try to build our networks in these areas, make sure we're seeing every deal in our target geographies, and to be honest, just these two geographies alone keep us extremely busy. I mean, even just Israel, there's just no stop of innovation coming out of there. So we're going to stick to our knitting and basically stick to two geographies, Dave.
Yeah, no, it's good. Listen, specialized, deep, it's a winning formula for sure. Alberto, comment on this too. I know you have a very international culture yourself as well. How do you look at this global landscape for deal sourcing?
It's been a great year, great opportunity, and we've been, enjoying a very good close relationship with Grupo Santander. Do you know them very well? They've been customers of yours, and so we announced last year a global collaboration when we not only it became an anchor for our third fund, but also launching a European fund. So unlike YL, Yoav, we are actually going to be launching a European team that is not going to be our team only. It will be located between London and Madrid, where we have been seeing great innovation out of Europe. And as you know, many European entrepreneurs don't want to come to the US too fast. They want to stick around. And since you just came back from your work tour, you're seeing a lot of sovereign clouds and a lot of people trying to control some of the core IP. And, you look at places like Germany, you look at places like France and all these places, they want to be able to control, given all the geopolitical environment and some of the upcoming elections, they want to have more control of their own destiny. So as such, we see this as a global opportunity set. We've been global investors since the beginning, but I would say probably maybe 15% of our portfolio have been global companies investing in Israel and Europe and all that. But yeah, we're actually launching a fund that will be announced probably in and around the RSA conference in parallel to the core fund that we have here.
By the way, I agree with you. I think there's amazing innovation coming from around the world now. It was fascinating to watch the Asian markets now. Singapore's innovation ecosystem is pretty impressive, trying to fast follow Israel, in terms of theirs. India is coming around. Some parts of Europe's coming around. It'll be interesting what happens in a couple of years from that perspective. Mark, talk about the global landscape, but then also maybe comment on a couple cool categories you like and what you're seeing happening as a transition.
Awesome. So we're similar to Alberto. We kind of talk, it's Five Eyes and Allies is kind of our hunting ground. So think of that as the major cyber centers around the world. Israel has kind of coined it, taking core technology out of the 82, 8100 units, but that's replicated throughout the world. You've got ASD down in Australia, you've got GCHQ out of the UK. So that's there. We've been kind of target-rich environments for us are kind of the cyber centers around kind of the Five Eyes and allies, and that's been successful for us, not only just for new companies, but also talent, right? That's augmenting the existing companies. It's great to take professionally trained people from the various, intel communities and different groups around the world. So that's been our success since founding, honestly. US, Canada, obviously good focus area, but Five Eyes and allies is what we keep talking about. In terms of areas of interest, reducing dwell time is kind of a core tenet for us. Reducing data exfil, so you kind of think of opportunities to invest in and around there. Cyber resilience is a big area, so that picks up cyber skill training and up-leveling organizations in terms of just general knowledge. You talked, another theme throughout the previous panels is just up-leveling cyber knowledge, right, all the way up to the board level. So having, Dave, you're at, I don't know how many board level public boards you're on, but how many of your board members have trouble finding email on their iPads, right? So having that level all the way down to understanding.
No comment.
Yeah, maybe not anymore, but trying to get that level down to understanding what ransomware is and how to react to it are kind of, those are big hurdles to deal with. And then you've talked a couple times already on the various panels around, misinformation, and ours is, the narrative attacks. How do you help organizations and countries with that? Another one of our colleagues, I think it's Ted, who's I always credit saying is that, disinformation is the new malware, right, Dave? When you were back at FireEye and McAfee, your number of signatures that were created was what you could count them not on one hand, but it was at least, you could handle it. Disinformation is now like malware, and it is spreading very, very unfortunately and causing all kinds of problems. So narrative attacks or disinformation, big area for us as well. So those are 4 or 5 target areas.
Maybe over to you, Alberto. Give me a category or two that you're like, this is a hot area, or maybe it's from an investment you just made. Tell me a couple.
So, I agree with Mark. The opportunity set is pretty broad, but a couple areas in your opening, you talked about how the accelerated evolution and disruption, the cyber and the adjacencies. Now, we've been now getting closer to the financial services because there you have fraud, KYC, AML, because the world is getting, closer, and there's probably they're the canary in the mine. And so we've been investing in, the next generation KYC, AML using AI to make sure that we can provide. And it's not just applicable to financial services, because everybody wants to know who their customer is. So that's a whole area, investment thesis that we have. We've done an investment just to ground that view. We spun out a company that was being nurtured in a university in Madrid with IBM, BBVA, and Santander. We launched it. A company called that is really focused on KYC and AML. It's called Links Technology, and they've been around for 10, 12 years, but they were sitting in a university. They were doing more than $50 million. They were profitable, but at the same time, now trying to commercialize and take them out to the market. So it's a great area. The other area, so not to repeat the general themes, is the edge computing, right? As you have finally the reality of, when you're walking through Starbucks, there gets a printed label, every car is trying to communicate, you have the fleets. And so we're trying to look at the new middleware, the light middleware that enables new class of applications. So we invested in a company called Synedia that is part of an Nat's open source project that really enables companies like Rivian, Starbucks, Walmart do their jobs at the local, yet consolidate in an asynchronous basis, the ability to consolidate information. So it's a pretty exciting area, but you can see how your adjacency slide at the beginning really shows the fact that this is only getting broader in the threat landscape.
By the way, I can't agree with you more in touchline as you're referring, talking about, misinformation being the new malware and kind of problems. The other one I see, if I could just chime in for a second, is the new hacking techniques in the next, Horizon One are going to be what I think of as electronic warfare, RF based as well. So how do we hack your phone without malware, without information, just through radio frequencies to disrupt or exfiltrate information? And we're starting to see that in the battlefield a little more. Cyber meets EW, as I like to say. And as you pay attention to the trends in the war theaters, this is another thing coming, almost like AI meets cyber or misinformation as an outcome of that. EW is it. Yoav, over to you. I'm curious. You made an investment in Gutsy. I thought that was a really interesting company with process mining, where RPAs kind of meet the world of cyber and process mining of it all. Talk about a couple categories you think you're seeing out there that really could survive the best of suite game that's being played and is a best of breed. Give me your vantage point.
Yeah, so Mark and Alberto touched on most of the interesting topics. I'll highlight maybe again, we spend a ton of time in AI, and obviously a lot of that is Gen AI. And our investment in AIM Security is basically trying to take care of the enterprises as they go into Gen AI in various ways, and try to protect them in all the different use cases. I'll tell you, we see a huge amount of attention in this area. The amount of inbound interest that we're getting from big banks, big insurance companies, industry, just every vertical, healthcare in that area is huge. And so, I expect there to be more investments in that area for sure. And then, just leveraging AI, including Gen AI in everything in security. Things like log analytics that have been really painful for decades. I mean, now there's a lot of innovation there. SOC automation, which has been SOC's been very painful, very, very human intensive. Now, we're seeing a lot of cool things that you can do with Gen AI and other forms of AI. I think in security now, it's almost like everything you can kind of look at, sort of AI first kind of view at anything in security and try to imagine new things. And I think entrepreneurs are doing just that. And it's really cool to see what founders are coming up with. Other areas, I think like Mark said, we keep being extremely interested in data security that's not solved yet. And so, companies like Eureka, Piano, Satori in our portfolio are really kind of attacking that. Identity is still huge. So we just sold a company to Okta called Spera, but it was in a pretty early sale. Spera was just getting going. So we've got other founders that are coming in now and trying to kind of pick up where Spera left. And there's a lot of identity innovation. And finally, I think like Mark said in cyber resilience and recovery, and Alberto said that as well. I mean, ransomware it just continues to be a problem. We've been looking for solutions for 7 or 8 years. I think we're finally seeing some interesting things. So, those are some interesting areas that are in our pipeline.
Yeah, I'm curious too, if you could, this new wave of quantum that is coming on the scene pretty quickly, but the problem of encryption being stovepiped in every application and every layer of the OSI stack, and some new companies starting to target that, one being Sandbox, that has really elevated its platform as well. You see that as an H1 or kind of Horizon 1 or Horizon 2 as you look at quantum as it affects cyber?
Well, for us, it's always been like, next year, it's going to happen next year, but it doesn't happen, which, I don't know, maybe the other panelists have a better view on this, but we're not yet seeing good solutions in this area. Maybe and Mark are seeing something.
Yeah, be curious. Yeah, Alberto, go to you for a minute. Talk a little bit about 2024, if you would, and I'd be curious, kind of what you see. Is this a year of M&A again? You heard this. We haven't seen an IPO since my company, ForgeRock, right? I mean, almost 3 years ago. You have a lot of companies kind of at that late stage, but where has all the value been in a lot of these early stage companies getting acquired? I mean, look at Talon with Palo Alto and some of the great successes this team has had on some of the great acquisitions. A couple million of ARR getting bought for 500-600 million is a pretty good outcome as you go. Alberto, is this a year of M&A? Do you see a lot more of that from your perspective?
We started seeing the acquirers already snooping around in Q3 and Q4. They have a lot of cash. As you know, you talk about the clash of the titans and everything else. In order for them to keep growing and stay relevant and be competitive, they're going to have to acquire. Look at companies like Cisco. There are the incumbents that are saying, "Hey, I cannot be falling behind, so I need to buy innovation." So we see a much more active 2024. 2023 was M&A because out of necessity, some companies were not going to make it and they needed to find a home. But I think we're going to see some more premium M&A transactions in 2024. And M&A is just it's a means to an end, because at the end of the day, it's trying to provide solutions to what the CISO panel was very insightful in terms of how they see the market and the fact that the best of suite, or the point solutions that are actually addressing real problems. But I think cyber, as we all know in this panel, has been dominated by M&A transactions. The key is focus on those white spaces, become the leader, make sure you allow the established vendors to continue to innovate and differentiate their solutions. And I think you will have some very interesting premium takeouts. So yeah, I see very active M&A market in 24.
I had one of the biggest acquisitions ever in cyber when I sold McAfee to Intel for almost $8 billion, and then along comes Splunk for $28 billion to Cisco. So they kind of one up me a little bit from the size and scale that's happened. I think that trend is coming. I really do believe that a lot of these young companies, because of the cash richness of not just the cyber titans, but these cloud titans, and even what I think of as the private equity titans that are in there and sovereign titans, there's a lot of acquirers in here now that really can create liquidity for portfolios like all of ours. Mark, bring us home here a little bit for what you see in 2024 and kind of any predictions, if you would.
I think all the panels up to this have kind of painted the picture. It's unfortunately the bad actors are still active, so I think it's not to quote a great movie, it's a target-rich environment. So I think we're certainly seeing uptick. I think I like what Alberto said, more kind of the strategic discussions going on, meaning strategic fit with capabilities into a larger platform, and then some of our platform companies are looking actually to do acquisitions, right? So we're in ReliaQuest, which is kind of security automation. So they're looking at acquiring. We're in so that you're seeing the big platform plays, obviously the public ones, but the private ones adding on to their platforms to be that one trusted partner for the security teams and governments. So I think we're excited about 24. I think it's just building on the momentum of 23. Working with great partners like the four of you on this screen here today, I think is a theme that we will continue and look forward to doing more in 24 with all you guys.
It won't be a dull year, 2024. I can promise you that. Unfortunately, man, we live in interesting times. Gentlemen, I am very impressed with you. I'll say this again. All three of you, just incredible outcomes for your funds, for your LPs. I've always appreciated all your insight. And listen, the way you've been able to design in M&A to your companies with your cap tables, with your partners, your design partners, I mean, it is a formula for success, something I've tried to emulate a little bit too as I've entered this market. But Yoav, thank you. Alberto, thank you. Mark, thank you. Appreciate you. And I'm sure I'll see you around, especially at RSA, at all the parties when we get there soon. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
See you all.